Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you, Kiara Ji, for leading us into Simran, and thank you, Sangat Ji, for attending this Sunday's discourse at the Sangat of the Divine Light. Today, we will try and speak about the topic of Bhakti. Bhakti means devotion. But in particular, what characteristics we need in order to develop our devotion, develop our Bhakti, and how we start on this path of Bhakti. We'll be exploring the scriptures of the Guru Granth Sahib in order to explain this topic. So as we introduced, please sit in a comfortable place throughout the discourse. Focus on your Shabad Mantra. Focus on that journey within, that divine that's sitting within you. Because these are precious moments that won't come again, and these are precious moments that we have together to remember the divine. When we explore the Gurbani, the Guru Granth Sahib, the messages of the Gurus, the Gurbani talks about two types of individuals. One type of individual is known as the Manmukh, and the other individual is known as the Gurmukh. Now, the majority of us, myself included, are what are termed Manmukhs. Man means mind, and Mukh means to face. So the Manmukh is the one who faces and walks in accordance with their mind. The characteristics of a Manmukh is that they follow their mind alone. They do not live for the divine, even if they say that they do. But they're rooted very much in this world. And because of this, they're unaware and have rejected their true life purpose. That life purpose to reconnect and find its origin. To work out what we're really doing here. It has no concept of finding its origin and to reunite with the divine and to remember the divine. The main thing for the Manmukh is self-preservation. Preservation of the ego. It has to be maintained, it has to be nurtured, and anything that takes us away from this frightens the Manmukh. The Manmukh lacks true wisdom, true understanding. We look at this world and we think this is permanent, we think this is all that there is, this is what is real. And this is the illness, the disease that the Manmukh is suffering. The fragility of our life, our condition is not appreciated by the Manmukh. And it's the Manmukh doesn't recognize the divine. Despite knowing everything, even if you come into spiritual discourses, you've been in Sangat, but you're still following your mind, you might have had all the teachings. So despite knowing everything, the Manmukh doesn't travel inwards, hasn't started that inward journey. And there's no concept of the divine within. And because of this, the Manmukh is described as someone who's asleep. Asleep in this Maya, asleep in their ego. The Manmukh doesn't even realize that it's so deep within this illusion that any perceptions of divinity will instantly be ignored. So even if the divine presents itself in front of the Manmukh, it'll be rejected. And finding a way out of this darkness, this pitch black darkness, is an impossible challenge for this Manmukh. As the Gurbani tells us, Antar alakh na jaye lakhiya, vich padda ho main pai, maya mohe sabo jag soya, eo param kaho kyo jai. This internal beauty is not found between us and the divine because we've put up the curtain of ego, which parda ho main pai. And because of this, We're fast asleep in this world, in this illusion of Maya. Maya is anything that takes us away from the divine. Any thought, any image, anything that's separate from the divine. So the world is described as Maya because it's not permanent, it's not real. But the manmukh has no consciousness of this awareness or the effects that Maya has. Very briefly, the Maya operates within us daily through the 5 thieves. Who are these 5 thieves? Lust, anger, greed, attachment, ego. These 5 thieves sponsor our emotions. They plunder our body daily. In this body home of us, we are plundered daily by these 5 thieves. And the manmukh lives in this ignorance. It has no awareness that this is even happening. And without realizing it, the manmukh experiences many highs and lows. Our emotions swing like pendulums. We are constantly hurt by our perceptions, our interactions, our inferences. And this is because we are following the path of our mind that's rooted in this world, rooted in this Maya, and we haven't started our divine practice. But on the other hand, we have those souls that are referred to as Gurmukhs. Now the Gurmukh is a term that's actually used quite freely. But in reality, a Gurmukh is a very rare soul. They're the ones who have understood this play, this game of life. And so whether we refer to this Gurmukh as a saint, as a Bhagat, as a Jnani, as a Brahmgyani, their state of being is the same. Their elevation is the same. A Gurmukh is literally one who is facing the Guru. But it's this soul that constantly lives in the presence of the divine. The Gurmukh follows and acts upon the path of the divine teachings. The Gurmukh has understood its objective of life, its origin. They practice the Shabad daily. They serve the Sangat. They realize the divine within them, and they're never separated from the divine. They see the divine in others. They live in the divine presence. They inspire others on the path of devotion. And just before we were starting this discourse, Bhai Sahib was speaking about first the Gurmukh practices the Shabad themselves, and then they inspire others. The true Gurmukh has dropped their ego. They're sweet, their speech is sweet. They live in humility. Both internally and externally, they just live in that presence of humility. And the Gurmukh, they have no judgments of anyone. But they will run far away from anything that's not going to be conducive to their spirituality. Whatever's not going to help their spiritual practice, they will simply reject. They don't have any judgment of anyone, but they will reject anything that's not going to elevate them. Because they're consciously aware of anything that's going to take away their peace. Because they're truly awakened in the true reality of the divine. As Bhai Gurudas Ji was a blessed soul who holds the key to the Guru Granth Sahib. And Bhai Gurudas Ji says this: Gurumukh ne chal mat hai, duje pae labaye na bachcha. Gurmukh sabd gamavana, pairi paire ras na accha. Gurmukh pae bhagt chamaccha. What are the qualities of this Gurmukh? Bhai Gurudas Ji describes this. They say the Gurmukhs are unwavering. They don't waste their time in the doubts of this world. They are not plagued by duality. They see everybody as one. They see the one in everything. And they always practice and live in the practice of the Shabad. And in living in the practice of the Shabad, they never forsake their humility. They're always looking to develop and rise deeper in humility. And in this way, Gurmukh pae bhakt chamaccha. And in this way, the Gurmukh is absorbed in Bhakti, in devotion. So the path of devotion, quite simply, is to live in the place of the oneness, remove those doubts, live in a place of humility, and these characteristics strengthen your devotion. Throughout the Gurbani, the Guru Granth Sahib, the scriptures, have told us about the manner in which the Gurmukh lives, and to meditate in the way of the Gurmukh. Manare Gurmukh Naam Te Aaye, Gurmukh Naam Te Aaye, Gurmukh Naam Te Aaye. This message comes again and again and again. Not meditate with your own mind. And we've made many different stories, many different ways of if we worship in this way, if we meditate in that way. No. Gurmukh Naam Te Aaye. Meditate in the way of the Gurmukh, those that have realized the divine. And this is a message that the Gurbani has told us many times. So the question for today is, what is that path of the Gurmukh? And how does this enhance our devotion, our bhakti? And then how do we transcend from being a manmukh to a Gurmukh? What is that change that takes place in our life? And we're looking to introduce this topic today, which we'll build on in future discourses. The first thing to understand is that although the Gurmukh will spend a lot of time in meditation and in service, because nothing's going to deepen our experience of the divine, nothing's going to take us inward without meditation, without service. But what's in particular is that these Gurmukhs have realized that devotion is not about how much we've meditated or how many prayers we've recited. It's not the amounts we've served. It's not the amounts we've given in charity. Devotion, bhakti, is not what we wear. Bhakti, devotion, is not what we look like. It's not how many spiritual texts we've remembered or studied. This path has nothing to do with the intellect. It has very little to do with the outward experience, the outward journey. Gur ki mat tu leh e aane, bhagat bina bahut dube siane. The Gurus have told us, take on the intellect, take on the path of the Guru, because there are many intellectuals and many people have made their own ways and they've drowned in this world. So what is it? This is the path and the extent in which the teachings of the divine have become our nature. This is how the Shabad, the path, the scriptures have become the very fabric of who we are, of what we are. This is the quality of our meditation over quantity. This is the extent to which our daily practice, our daily spiritual practice, our Nityanem, has become our every thought process. This is our spiritual wisdom based on our ability to adopt, accept, implement, and then experience the divine teachings. This is bhakti. As Guru Nanak Dev Ji has said, Mat vich ratan jawahar manak, je ik gur ki sikh suni. In our mind, the Guru places precious stones. They have thrown and scattered these precious jewels, these stones, these rubies, these diamonds on the bed of our mind, on the floor of our mind. What stones? Compassion, tolerance, forgiveness, meditation, the experience of oneness. These stones are scattered at the floor of our mind, even if we truly meditate on that divine even once, even only once. So this true devotion of bhakti is born from true love. That love that comes from the center of our heart, the center of our existence. And it's that love of the divine that is revealed through practicing the divine virtues. Without this, There is no Bhakti without first nurturing these divine virtues. And sometimes when we think about virtues of taking on compassion, being compassionate, being forgiving, being loving, caring for each other, we get confused. We think these are very humanistic concepts. I.e., if we just be a good person, we just live a good life, don't trouble anyone, that's all we need to do. And we often hear this. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji has informed us that adopting these divine values is a much deeper experience. In Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji has told us. Guru Nanak Dev Ji has informed us about all the attributes that belong to the divine. Sab guna tere main nahi koi. All attributes belong to the divine. Everything belongs to the divine. I have nothing that exists in myself. And without these divine virtues, there is no bhakti. There is no devotion. Vin guna kite bhagta na hoye. Without the divine, without these divine virtues, there can be no bhakti. You can meditate and you can confuse yourself that I have lived a life of devotion. But unless that seeps into your heart, unless that becomes your every thought process, we will not transform from that manmukh to that gurmukh. So what are the steps of this transformation? How do we transcend from the manmukh to the gurmukh? Firstly, it's invoking something called Buddha Vivek. As the Guru Granth Sahib Ji has said, Har Pariyo Swami ke dware dije Buddha Viveka. We've tried many things, we've tried different meditations, I've tried different techniques, I've tried different practices, I've gone here and there and everywhere. But now I've fallen at your door. Please bless me with that understanding that I can separate the false from the real. Buddha Vivek. Buddha Vivek is our ability to separate what's real and understand our true life purpose. It's a sense of discrimination and dispassion against anything that's temporary and unreal. And without the ability to do this very task, the scriptures have told us that our life is wasted. This is the ability to work out that this is all an illusion and only the divine is real. It's developing that spiritual intellect, not the mental. And in order to develop the spiritual intellect, Buddha Vivek requires another power. And that's the power of inquiry, which we call vichar. This inquiry is something we can do every day, and we do this inquiry all the time. All of our life is based on this inquiry, on our thoughts, on our decisions, what we call vichar. And this is us constantly evaluating what we want to do, what we want to decide, who we are, based on everything that happens to us. So in this sense, the Guru has told us to use this vichar, this thought process that we have, to separate what's false from what is real. Vichar is our focus on our Shabad Mantra, but it's also interpreting every single situation through the eyes of the Guru, through the eyes of the divine. And this Gurmukh has realized that the way that they react to each and every situation will define who they are. And they will use their power of inquiry, they use this power of vichar to see what works for them and what doesn't work for them. They evaluate every single situation based on what the Guru thinks, what the Guru tells us, what the divine tells us, what the scriptures tell us, what the saints have taught us. For instance, a person may attack you, and it's very easy for the manmukh to rise in that anger. But the Gurmukh hears the whisper of the divine saying, do not rise in that anger, for this is only going to cause you pain. Forgive instead. Forgive. So you do not play those negative emotions again and again, and they don't constantly hurt you. You don't live in that anger. That doesn't consume you. This Buddha Vivek is where we introspect ourselves. And we use that process of vichar, that inquiry, to ask ourselves in each and every situation, why am I acting this way? Why am I responding this way? Is this really true to who I am? Why am I holding on to this anger? And through this inquiry, when we constantly do this inquiry, when we start evaluating every single situation that comes to us, we will then gain that courage to slowly dissociate ourselves from all those things that cause us pain. And it's this introspection, it's this ability to have this introspection that the spiritualists pray for. DJ Buddha Viveka. And when they do this inquiry, they come to that place of awakening. And they start to separate what's false from real. They leave away whatever is the illusion, the Maya experience, and choose the divine. The divine becomes their passion, and that passion intensifies as their love for the world decreases. So once we master this, Sangatji, once we have mastered this Buddha Vivek, this act of vichar, this inquiry, we will start to be engaged in Bhakti. We will start to be engaged in this devotion. We'll be engaged in devotion. And this is what we mean by devotion in motion. This is the initial value of the Gurmukh. The second is what is known as Bairag or Birha. Bairag is a spiritual sadness and longing. And nothing will deepen our experience and our longing for the divine than through Bairag. And through our inquiry and through our Buddha Vivek, once we realize that we are not our body, we are not our family, we are more than our jobs, we are more than our possessions, we are more than our negative emotions. When we start through our meditation and through this practice, when we start to get a glimpse of our true self and our true emotion, from there builds this great sense of longing and yearning. Once we know about our true home, living in this home becomes a bit of a difficulty. And all we want to do is go back home, back to the feet of the divine. And that's what we know as the state of Bairag or Birha. And this is very simplified, Sangatji. Because the experience of Bairag and Birha is much deeper than this. And only those that truly experience this state will talk about it. Others, like myself, are just telling you a textbook scenario. But as the Gurbani states, Birha Birha Akhiya Birha Tu Sultan, that many people talk about the pains and suffering of separation. But Birha is the ruler of all. Farida Jid Tan Birho Na Upajai So Tan Jaan Masan. Because until you have that sense of longing, that sense of separation, your body is just no better than a cremation ground. Fariji says, the Gurbani tells us, because you're living dead, because you haven't realized your true life purpose. In that spiritual sadness, we come alive. Bairag or Birha, through our inquiry comes this complete detachment from our sense objects, a detachment from our limited pleasures of this world. And through this vichar, this inquiry, this Gurmukh has understood that this is not real. This existence that we're living is completely tasteless. The Gurmukh says, I've tasted all of these things and everything just seems so sour to me. Drink in this divine love, drink in this Naam. All we see is an illusion. The truth lies deep within us. That true vibration lives deep within us. And this is what we start hearing in this Bairag and Birha. Sangatji, there are many people who read scriptures, they'll sing beautiful, beautiful hymns, and occasionally the tears might roll down your face when we hear something emotional. You'll see people sitting in Sangat, and they'll be dancing, they'll be clapping, they'll be moving their heads. But Sangatji, this is an internal dialogue. This is an internal resonance. It's not the outward resonance. This is not the true experience. Many times I've witnessed singing and crying and reciting devotional scriptures where people will say they've experienced Bairag. I've been there as well, but the thing is, the next day you're back to the same tricks of your mind. You're doing the same old thing again. Whereas in Bairag, you're not giving yourself back to this world again. You're moving forward. The saints have said that this is a unique sadness. Bairag has its own qualities. It can give us gifts that nothing else can. Happiness doesn't go as deep in our spiritual development as sadness does. Sadness is what lets us travel deeper. Because in this sadness, it's where our intense love for the divine increases. Our love intensifies like no other. But in this love, the Gurmukh, as the lover, has to disobey completely in the divine, completely lost in the divine. As Guru Arjan Dev Ji tells us, the fifth Guru, Ubji Preet Prem Ras Chao, Mantan Antar Ihi Swao. Love and affection and the taste of this yearning has welled up in me. Within my mind and body, I'm experiencing this. This is my sole purpose. This is not a love born from the sense organs. This is a state of love like piercing daggers in our heart. This is a reservoir of tears that keep flowing from you internally as that yearning intensifies your meditation and your service only increases. I can't live even for a second without my divine. And a reservoir of tears is just flowing and flowing. This is real change. This is real change in our nature, and this is real change in our emotions, and these are the characteristics of Bhakti. The third is mental and physical control. Through that vichar, through that buddh vivek, through that inquiry, we look at each situation that comes to us, and we reject anything that will take away our divine experience. And in doing so, the Gurmukhs achieve this mental and physical control and stability. The foundation of all of these practices is how rooted we are in our mental control. How we refocus our dominant thoughts that create our conceptions, that create our interpretations. Have we recentered those dominant thoughts that would define who we become, define our fundamental nature, define our habits, define our thoughts? This is the mental discipline to divert the attention from the mind away from anything negative and focus on the virtues mastered by the Gurmukhs, focus on the virtues of the divine. And the Gurmukhs have mastered this by firstly focusing on the Shabad, and then actively instructing the mind and involving it in the thoughts of a higher purpose, by talking to the mind and actively invoking it and bringing it into the present, by bringing the mind into service, by bringing the mind into meditation. Not fighting against the mind, but making the mind a friend, not suppressing the mind, but using it. And in this way, they are able to cover and use the mind to reflect the beautiful colors of the Sangat. That mind of the Gurmukh, once plagued by negativity, now shines with that humility. And that process of the Gurmukh has managed to allow the mind to be conquered. And from here comes an awareness a channeling of our energy and our senses. This disciplined mind has subdued the urges of this body, this physical body. This Gurmukh is not a slave to the tastes, to the lust, to the desires. The Gurmukh doesn't live in resentment or bitterness. They are not a slave to their emotions. They're not subdued by the body's urges. And they're constantly watchful of these 5 thieves that come to rob our peace. They do not let their guard down. The Gurmukh has then understood that the divine lives within and within everyone. And for this reason, they have no anger. They have no frustrations. They have no bitterness. They don't live in the expectations of others. And they've redirected this negativity. As the Gurbani explains, Gur ka shabd rid antar tara, panch chinasyo sang nivara, das indri kar rakhe vas, taake atme hoye pargas. Firstly, they focus on the Shabad, and they've developed their spiritual practice. And by doing this, they've freed themselves from the company of the 5 thieves. And when they've done this, the gates of our bodily senses are then locked and secured from the temptations of Maya. And then what follows, Sangatji, is that the light of the divine that shines so brightly in our soul, the soul within you. And this is where we come to that place of complete mental balance. In pleasure, the Gurmukhs sit in the presence of the divine. In pain, they sit in the presence of the divine. Their inner nature does not choose to be blown away by the storms of our emotions or our karmic experiences that are playing out. They remain stable and comfortable in themselves and totally in the awareness of the divine. This is how those precious Gurmukhs of the past have accepted even torture, of hurt, of physical pain. They've endured so much. They can bless those that hurt them, bless those that harm them, for they have no place. They have no manner in which they will allow this bitterness to take away their composure. And they can live in the world. This doesn't mean you're running away from this physical world. You can enjoy the finer things in life, but you're not looking to be focused. You're not to fulfill your gratification. Everything you do is to fulfill your spiritual development, your spiritual duties. As the 9th Guru has described, Guru Tegh Bahadur, Sukh dukh dono sam kar jana, aur maan apmana, hark sog te reh dita, tin jag tat pachana, ustat ninda do tyag khoje pad nirvana, jan nanak e khel khatan hai, kinhu gurmukh jana, jan nanak e khel khatan hai, kinhu gurmukh jana. These Gurmukhs, they see pleasure and pain as the same. They've renounced praising people. They renounce their own praise, and they do not slander others. They don't listen to anybody's slander. And in this very rare Gurmukh has understood this game, this hard game. Khel khatan. It's a very hard game. Kinhu Gurmukh jana. Only very rare have reached this silence. What waits for these Gurmukhs is this path of enlightenment, Khoje Pad Nirvana. What waits for these Gurmukhs is that path of liberation while they're still alive, where they're free from Maya, where they enter this state of Sun, this profound silence. This Gurmukh resides in complete unflinching faith in the divine, and through this faith, the divine is revealed to them. This is the path of true devotion. This is the path of Bhakti. These pointers, Sangatji, can act as our own checklist. How true are we to our own devotion? How true are we to our own virtues? Are we rising in our anger? Are we conscious of these 5 set thieves plundering us? And when we start becoming conscious of them, when we start putting things into place to avert them, then we're treading on this path of bhakti. This is a path of developing and cultivating and nurturing your own divine values. We're not going to keep there, because without those divine values, there can be no devotion. And with these words, Sangatji, I beg forgiveness. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.